We need help.
Like stat.
It's hard for me to say this, but I need help.
Our marriage was a code blue.
Code blue. I thought code red was like the highest.
This is marriage, WTF.
With Kenyon and Michelle. Warning, we are not licensed professionals. However, we are experts on saving our marriage. Viewer discretion is advised.
So as we discussed in our previous video, we did a little bit anyway, we touched on it. Kenyon first went to see a counselor a year ago, so in the summer of 2018. And I recommend that he see a male counselor just because of some of the items that he needed to speak on, and I knew how he was with females. So, and I mean, here's the thing. Let me preface it with this too, that I'm not a jealous person. Have you ever known me to be like a jealous person?
No, not at all.
No,
Not at all.
we even had 3 of his ex-girlfriends at our wedding. Like I'm very, very secure with myself, so I don't have a problem with him having, female friends or anything like that. But at the same time, there was a reason that I didn't give him my phone number the night we met.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So I needed a counselor, and looking back on it, it probably wasn't the best thing. I probably didn't do as much research. I think even in trying to find a counselor back then, I was worried about how much it was going to cost. And so I was trying to find possibly a cheap way of doing it where our insurance was for sure going to cover it. So in this instance, when you're working on yourself, you can't go cheap.
Right.
You have to find the best counselor out there available for you.
Yeah.
I know I was in denial about needing a counselor. I knew, kind of looking back on it now, that I was doing that to appease you, to get you off my back, so to speak. And going to a female counselor was a big mistake for me because I'd always been a pleaser. And like we had said and mentioned in another video, it came from how I interacted with my mom and my sister from my childhood.
Okay, so with the therapist that you went to see last summer, do you feel like you were even ready to open up to anybody, or do you think it would have been different if you would have started to see Brandon at that time?
I think so. I think it would have made a bigger difference because I think I told you, I guess my expectations of a counselor and what they would ask you was a certain way going into it, and that she'd ask how I was feeling, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good, and I would ask her, like, is there anything you want to know? And she's like, no, just talk. And for me, I'm a salesperson, so I know I know how to use my words pretty well, and so I was just telling her what she needed to hear. I didn't really open up though. Do
you felt like so now you've got one person to compare to another, 2 different counselors. Right. Do you feel like she tried to get you to open up? Do you feel like because I feel like with Brandon, don't you feel like he knew, like, there's layers to this dude, and he kind of knew how to tap into it? Do you feel like maybe she was just kind of going through the motions?
I'm not, we're not like discrediting her at all as a counselor, but there's just certain things when you're dealing with,
or even female counselors in general, because there's amazing female counselors.
Right. Absolutely. But I think in this instance, there was something so deep and dark in me, like she didn't ask the questions that was really going to make me think about it. And once again, my interaction would have probably, which it was I'm telling her what she wanted to hear. Yeah. I'm doing great. She's saying that, hey, sounds like you got everything under control. And for me, that was the pat on the back that I always needed, and realized that was probably not helping that I was doing that. So
you think?
Just a little.
So after like the 4th session, when he came home, and I told him too, I'm not going to ask you anything that you guys discussed. This is completely up to you. This is between you and your counselor. It's private. HIPAA prevents her from saying anything, so you can completely unload, tell her whatever it is that you need to tell her. Just tell her. the fourth session, he came home and he says, well, she says I'm good. Looks like I got everything under control and she doesn't really need to see me for anything.
Yeah.
Wow. Either you just BS the crap out of her or, you know, she just wasn't really invested in peeling your layers. Maybe a combination of the both, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the rhetoric between us probably was more to make myself feel good. It was going back to not wanting to deal with the hurt. We're talking about there is a term that'll come up a little bit. We call embrace the suck, and you know, I didn't want to get in there. I didn't want to get into an area where I was going to feel really bad about things I said, things I done, how I felt, what I thought. I wanted to all be good. And
okay, so we want to share with you some things that we learned when looking for the best marriage counselor for us.
Yeah, what questions you should ask. Really, now with everything on the internet, you can find out a lot about people, but it doesn't tell you everything. So you should kind of look around for your counselor.
Absolutely. Okay, so number one, try to get a referral. And this is actually like easier said than done because therapy or counseling of any kind, unfortunately, still has a stigma attached to it. That's one of the main reasons that we are doing this and we are putting it all out there. You know, we just feel like we did a Facebook Live and went on and shared some of the struggles that we were having. And we did that like in February, right when everything was coming down. And that we said we were seeing a therapist. And one of the reasons that we decided to do that was because I think a lot of people look at us and think, man, they just have the perfect marriage, blah, blah, blah. You know, and the reality is no one has the perfect marriage. We're all a work in progress. So, you know, we put that out there and we couldn't believe the response that we got back from so many of our friends and family who thanked us for being real and raw and emotional and just sharing that marriage therapy is a good thing. There should be no stigma attached to it whatsoever. It has saved our family. That's one of the main things that saved our family.
It's so sad that there's a stigma attached to it, but you know, the Facebook Lives did open us up to possibly doing this. We knew that it was kind of raw, but the fact that we got text messages from friends, we were Facebook messages about from people that said, "Hey, we were going through that, and we're so glad. When are you going to do another one?"
And also, can I get the number to your counselor?
Right. And we've referred some people on to our counselor, Brandon, and hopefully those people are taking them up on it. But there's a lot of freedom that comes with this, but there also is vulnerability. And we know everybody's not going to like what we say or agree with what we say, but the reality is we're doing this for us. And if there's any way that it helps other people, then, you know, it's great. But this is about us, and this is about us working through our issues and getting to a place where we want to be. And that's, you know, enjoying life together and watching our kids grow and grow together.
Along the way, we've seen couples that, you know, we were shocked when they decided to separate. And then we saw some where you could kind of see it building and you knew it was coming and unfortunately probably inevitable because things weren't taken care of initially, you know, when they needed to be. So I think for us too that we sought out a counselor. If we didn't, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Looking for a counselor, we did it together. We kind of started doing a little bit more research and we'll talk about it a little bit, but the universe is kind of funny. And I don't know how we found Brandon, but I know that it was a universe thing. I think at that time we're just putting out positive energy, wanting to find somebody that's going to be able to help us. And
we were both praying.
Yeah, and Brandon was a godsend for sure. He is very, very good at peeling back the layers, but doing it in a way that's almost like non-intrusive, but he's very good on picking up stuff. He listens really well, and then he'll say, "I picked up on this" or "I picked up on that." So that was something that was really kind of I don't know. It was. I was surprised at how well he was able to do it. So
being in his office was He made it comfortably uncomfortable.
Right, right. There was a couple times when he brought up things and he would ask a question like, "How old are you?" Or "How old are you?" in that thought. And I had never had anybody ever approach any of my internal issues with a time period in my life. And that in itself was able to, for me and for
Mm-hmm.
us to identify where that hurt came from. Yeah, he's phenomenal. There was an automatic feeling of trust
Yeah.
because I went to him a few times before she
Yeah.
did. And so there was a huge amount of trust there. And then when she came in with me, he did his work in kind of peeling back some of your layers too.
Oh yeah,
So
I was shocked because I'm like, I don't have layers. Like anyone who knows me, I put it all out there. I'm an open book. I always have been. I've been through a lot, and I've always felt like we can learn from each other. So I was just I've always put it out there, except for the marriage.
Right.
I though did have a couple amazing go-to friends that I knew I could go to, and I did. Even if I hadn't talked to him for a few years, I I I went to those two friends, and you had the one,
Yeah.
but men just don't communicate the way women do. We didn't realize until we started researching how much of an epidemic it is that men are just taught from a young age to not show emotion, not show your feelings, be tough. That's what masculinity is, and it's so wrong. And we have three boys that we're still raising. I mean, the one we adopted, he's 24 and a
Yeah.
half, but
But we're still, and so a
yeah.
lot of it was just making sure that I was doing the things to get me right as a man in this whole
Mm-hmm.
marriage thing, but also to in the back of my mind was I wanted to set an example for
Right.
our boys as to one, when you mess up, you take responsibility for it. If you need to clean up, you do what's necessary to clean
Mm-hmm.
yourself up and get back right. And three, just show them that true love can get through things.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a perfect marriage, we don't have a perfect relationship, but we're willing to work on it and make ourselves better to make our marriage better.
And then along with our daughter, it was important for me as a female to show her what she deserves and that she shouldn't settle for anything less. Make sure that your therapist has received special training and is experienced in marital therapy, maybe even family therapy if there are children in the picture.
Is faith-based counseling or non-faith-based counseling important to you? That's something that you have to think about too. We really weren't
We
even
weren't
looking
looking.
for a
Mm-mm.
faith-based counselor, but as it moved along and we started to get to know Brandon a little bit more, he started to get to know us, we realized that a lot of what he was doing with us was based and
Yeah.
having faith at the top of the line. So I mean, it's worked out phenomenal for us. So the whole faith-based thing we talked about a little bit, it probably wouldn't have been as impactful if I hadn't started going to a Bible study group.
Yeah.
We started going to a new church. We had been going to Catholic church, but I mean, going is kind of an ambiguous word
Yeah.
because of so much that we were doing. But this group of men that I was able to bond with and now have fellowship with has been incredible for me because one of the things I thought I was looking for in my life was a relationship with my biological father, a better relationship with my stepfather. And those things are all probably there, but what I needed was a safe place where I could talk to men about men things and the things that bothered us and things that we had to deal with. And this Bible study group not only has allowed me to understand the word and read the word a little bit more and see how that impacts my life and walk with and help me in my walk with Jesus, it's given me a safe place to talk. And I realized that I'm not the only person. I think suffering in silence, quiet desperation for men, it's like she said, is an epidemic. And to be able to go somewhere on a weekly basis and share what's going on in here with men that are older than me and have more experience than me has been an unbelievable and freeing experience for me. And I absolutely love it. I feel bad when I have to miss for work or something like that, but I do text them and let them know that I'm thinking about them. And so Bible study for me has been a godsend. Those men have been a godsend for me.
Okay, check with your insurance and see if it's covered. So it turned out that Brandon was covered under ours. We're pretty pleased with the coverage, gotta tell you. But check with your policy or your plan and see what your coverage is. There might be a therapist that is in network, and then there's some that might be out of network. So, just double check on that.
And I'm going to tell you, it'll be worth a few extra bucks if you have to go out of network for it or you have a little bit higher copay. So we would have paid extra for Brandon because of the work that he's done for Michelle and I. So definitely your mental, emotional health are worth it. So put the money into it.
And remember, you typically get what you pay for. If someone comes highly recommended, it's probably going to be worth a few extra bucks.
And then two, trust your instincts. A lot of times you can feel people out. And like Michelle said, I guarantee if she would have went with me to the first counselor, she probably would have been, yeah, we're not going here anymore, because she would have been able to understand and see that it wasn't going to help me. So trust your instinct when you select a individual counselor or a marriage counselor.
Yeah, don't be afraid to shop around a little bit. What we found out too was a lot of them offer like a free consultation. So take them up on that. Ask them if they do offer that, and just see if you have a rapport with that person.
So an important question to ask is, the person that you're going to for counseling, you're going to go into some uncharted territory, and it's hard to be vulnerable. So there's going to be some uncomfortable moments, and you have to be willing to go there with the counselor that you're going to be spending time with. So
it's not going to be easy. Like I said, comfortably uncomfortable. You want to feel like you're in a safe space because you're letting out some deep, dark secrets, and like we've talked about before, vulnerability seems scary to think about. I can't imagine telling someone, X, Y, and Z, but then once you do, it's absolutely freeing.
It's heavy at times, but,
oh man.
But the thing is that weight is not as much as it was when we first started
our
journey.
No, our second session together, I remember we were sitting there and you just were at a loss, and I remember Brandon saying, "Are you guys okay?" And we were holding on to each other. And Kenyon, I knew right away. I'm like, well, he's going home to take a nap, and I'm going to get a tattoo. So we'll talk more about the tattoo later.
Yeah, it was emotionally draining, but those are the moments where you know that he know he pulled something out of us. And he's a great listener, because he'll let us go back and forth, and he's just taking notes and that kind of thing. And you have to ask yourself, is he a good listener or she? Do they give you good advice? Do they give you something to take away and work on? Or are they trying to get you out of the office? We typically would go over with Brandon on our time, and there'd be patients waiting coming in. But that's when you know he's invested in you and not just invested in the money.
Right.
So when you go to a counselor, does he talk about your intimate relationships, or is he always referring to something outside, the thing that has possibly caused you to come to him?
Right.
You want a counselor that's going to deep dive and who's trying to understand how you came to be the person that you are. So you want a counselor that's going to do, quote unquote, research into you. And if they ask you the questions that really tap into the hurt that you may be pushing down. And Brandon definitely did that for me a few times.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable and respected by your therapist? Do you feel that he or she understands your perspective feelings?
And you want a counselor that doesn't side with one person or the other, because if you're working on a marriage, it's about both of you.
Right.
Now, there may be instances where he's working more with Michelle and me, but in that, it's about bringing us together and making sure that we have something to fight for.
Well, and I think I asked you too, do you ever feel like you were ganged up on? Because, homie had way more issues than me, so...
May be true.
Yeah. I did. I wanted to make sure that he didn't feel ganged up on, because So you went for a couple sessions
Yeah.
with Brandon, and then I came, and then Brandon kind of heard, like my side, my version of the events. And at the end of the session, he said, I see a lot of love here. And he said, if this doesn't work, it's for one of two reasons.
Yeah.
He said, it's either I'm not doing my job and I'm good at it,
Yeah.
or it's your integrity. And he pointed to Kenyon.
Absolutely.
And that was kind of I felt your gut punch.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. And I think, my background in sports and some of the other things I've done, it's really hard to hear that, because even in sports, you're a pleaser because you have a coach and you always want to get that pat on the back. And in this instance, you're being told something that you're not good at, something that you have to get better at, something that you really have to look in the mirror and figure out. And it's scary. It's horrifying. It is the loneliest place you want to be. But if you're able to get through it, and you're so much better on the other end. And I'm feeling that now.
He's going to take you into that deep, dark place in another video. So make sure you subscribe, like, give us thumbs up.
Absolutely.
And comment. Let us know what you think. We prefer, positive criticism, of course. But have you been to a therapist? What was your experience? What advice would you add? So let us know. We want to hear your thoughts as well. Looking for the right marriage therapist is kind of like shopping around for a car. It's great to get a referral, but don't be afraid to take it for a test drive.
And remember, you don't have to go with the first therapist you encounter. You may go to one and it's not what you like, and you can go to a different counselor. You don't have to stay there. So, like I said, this would be equivalent to like buying the first car or something like that, and just seeing if you like that brand or that model. So, but if you connect with a therapist right away and they've checked the boxes that you're looking for, then it's worth the investment in staying with them.
Yep. And don't forget about our marriage WTF challenge, #Appreciation Nation.
So every day, tell at least one person close to you tell them something that they've done that you appreciate, and remember, see how they react and see how you feel.
Then comment below and use #Appreciation Nation with what their reaction was. We want to hear. And it doesn't have to be your spouse's significant other. This works well with your kids.
And we've seen a marked improvement with our kids, and just telling them thank you for little things, and we appreciate them doing things. So if you live it, your kids see it, and they can pick up on some of the good stuff out of it too.
Absolutely.
And remember, we're here because our marriage is worth the fight.
Our family is worth the fight.
And so is yours. So remember, subscribe, like, and share this video.
And we will see you on the next Marriage WTF.